What's up, guys? Steven here. Today we have a really interesting story to talk about. Last night there was a late night vote in Congress, and it was over censuring. If you don't know, censuring is basically a slap on the wrist to a congressperson, can remove them from some committee assignments and things like that. So gives them a little less power in our government when they've been caught doing something wrong. The Republicans had put up Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett to be censured for her communications with Epstein. In the most recent leaked documents, it came out that Plaskett was basically working behind the scenes with Epstein to try and destroy Trump, even going so far as texting Epstein during congressional hearings and stepping out of congressional hearings to take phone calls with Epstein. Plaskett referred to Epstein as a constituent, but many in Congress thought this was pretty crooked, especially since she was getting these messages to try and throw Trump under the bus. Epstein, who was very involved in the political circles in New York, wasn't being used to blackmail Trump for any of the horrible things that Epstein did that many people think other politicians and movers and shakers in the business world took part in, but she was tapping him for his insight, knowledge, and political savvy to get gotcha statements on Trump during congressional hearings. This is pretty gross, and what's even more gross is the censure vote got denied. Take a look at this video from Republican Congressman Tim Burchett posted on X.
About a Tim Burchett late vote series to censor delegate Stacey Plaskett. She's the one that was received a sizable contribution from Epstein, which...
Oh yeah, she got donations from Epstein
legal,
too.
I'm not sure, but she also is the one who was texting with him during a committee hearing, getting instructions on how to better attack Trump from Epstein, sending her the text. And so she's on some pretty powerful committees, and that just tells you how corrupt this place is. But the disgusting thing about it
so
was
gross.
4 Republicans chose not to vote. 3 Republicans voted present, and 3 Republicans voted no.
You guys hearing that?
And what they did was they cut
failed because 6 Republicans didn't vote yes
on an ethics vote on a Republican, and that's just wrong. If everybody ought to just stand on their...
So what he's referring to is a censure vote on Republican Congressman Corey Mills, who is facing censure for reportedly faking some of the documents he used to receive some of his war medals. And rather than allowing punishment to this very obviously deserving senator who not only took money from Jeffrey Epstein, but used him as a political tool to try and attack Trump behind the scenes and in front of the camera during Senate hearings. No. Let's not punish her because you guys are trying to punish one of our guys. You don't punish him and we don't punish her. They struck a backroom deal. Now, does that sit right with all of you? Because I kind of feel like both of them should be punished if the things are true. Isn't that supposed to be the point of these type of hearings? They put forth the evidence, and then if the people did wrong, then they get punished? Well, apparently not.
Our own, if it were truly, we don't care whose party these sex offenders and all this other stuff are in. We're going after them.
Amen.
Start cutting deals. To me, it's really disgusting. I get
it's my words exactly
about some things, but this is one that's really, really bad. You've got some people on there who are chairmen of committees and things like that, and that's the kind of people we put in leadership. It's bogus and it stinks. And the first opportunity I get to speak to our leadership, I will give them a piece of my mind, and I doubt it will go anywhere. But they're the most sewer-dwelling people, some of these folks, not all of them, but some of them are.
Definitely seems that way.
It's just disgusting. It really is. Anyway, still, thank y'all for sending me here. We got to keep fighting. We quit, and we lose the whole deal. Remember Reagan said we're one generation away from losing our country. Folks, we're one vote series away from losing our country. We got to wake up.
That's true. Imagine if Trump didn't win this last election.
it won't be around for everybody. It's just for their grandkids. Dadgum, it might not be around for your kids. It might not make it to the end of the year.
Yep.
Let's take our country back, folks. Thank y'all for seeing me here.
Yeah, imagine if Trump didn't win the election and we had another 4 years of the whatever you call that last administration. I'd like to call it the Biden administration, but we all know he wasn't running it. The deep state administration, I guess. But this is disgusting. Republicans, even if it was only 6 of them, shouldn't be doing backroom deals to get off people associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Enough association that they are texting them privately during congressional meetings. That means he's not just another constituent, as she tried to say. That means she knew who he was, she knew he had inside ties, and she knew him personally enough to have direct cell phone access. I don't have my senator's cell phone number, do you? Fox News touched base with Senator Comer, who did vote to censure Plachette. Let's see what he has to say.
Avoiding being censured by her House colleagues. This after revelations she texted with Jeffrey Epstein during a 2019 hearing where Michael Cohen was testifying. Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin coming to her defense.
It's just so gross,
They want to arraign her on some charges based on a newspaper article that she did something lawful. However ill-advised it may have been, she took a phone call from one of her constituents. They want to give them another headline, which is...
Bro, if these people say he's one of their constituents one more time, oh my God.
That they've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing.
So gross.
House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer joining us now. Congressman, your reaction to all this?
Well, I've said many times, Jamie Raskin's full of crap.
I have a feeling he's not going to be too happy.
Definition of congressional hypocrisy. Can you imagine if that were Donald Trump or me or some Republican that Raskin doesn't like?
Good point. I mean, let's be honest. From everything that's been released, Trump was Jeffrey's friend, you know, like a colleague, business associate, whatever you want to call it. And then at some point, something happened in Mar-a-Lago. He kicked him out, said he was a creep, never wanted to do anything with him again. And they were done. And Epstein continued for years to, you know, have his hands deep into U.S. politics and play with all these senators. And then when they were trying to get rid of Trump, helped these guys try and find ways to throw Trump off or spin stories against Trump. So if Trump was actually in contact with these guys and they had evidence of Trump literally texting with this guy while he's in the middle of a press conference, can you imagine what they would say?
That was texting with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender who the Democrats have now become obsessed over because...
Which, solid point, needs to be pointed out. He was convicted at this point. This is not, okay, when Trump was friends with him, and when a lot of other people knew him in the circles, it wasn't publicly known that this dude was a sex pest. If you're in big business and finance and political circles in New York, back then you probably rubbed shoulders with Jeffrey Epstein, maybe even talked to him, maybe even went to some functions with him and stuff like that. Doesn't make you guilty of anything. She was communicating with him after it was already known exactly who he was. After he was convicted, after he was ostracized, after he was known to be a pedo, is when she was buddying up with good old Jeffy.
They hope and pray that he has something to do with Donald Trump. If we were texting with him during a committee hearing, I mean, it's preposterous. Remember, Jamie Raskin appointed Stacey Plaskett to be on the impeachment, to be an impeachment manager of Donald Trump. And here we find out she was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein in a plot to take down Donald Trump. So for Jamie Raskin to try to defend that on the House floor,
they literally got her on film
par for the course
texting,
Raskin, but it's the definition
when they know
of
these were going to Jeffrey
Mr.
Epstein.
Chairman, you were part of that committee when all of this is going on. Mm-hmm. Delegate Plaskett yesterday defending herself, saying this. Listen.
Now, I heard recently from someone that I was seeking advice from him. Let me tell you something. I don't need to get advice on how to question anybody from any individual. I have been a lawyer for 30 years.
Oh, shut up.
There she
Come on, like you're on tape, and then they have when the text messages came and timestamped. You literally regurgitated the talking points that Epstein fed you. Shut up! What are you talking about?
Yes, defending yourself, Congressman, is that satisfactory to you?
I mean, again, can you imagine what she would be saying if Donald Trump was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein, trying to answer a question from Stacey Plaskett? I mean, the hypocrisy is in full display here. For the Democrats to go all in over the last month over release the files. I think one reason they were demanding we release the files is they didn't think that President Trump would release the files or that I would subpoena the estate files. What we know about Plaskett and Hakeem.
I think that's a lot of it, right? Like they probably knew that Trump was mentioned a ton in the files because Epstein was working really hard to try and get Trump dethroned or whatever you want to call it, kicked out of American politics and ostracized. So they knew he would get guilty by association because of how much he's talked about and how many things can be bent out of proportion. So they didn't think he would actually publish them, when in reality, they weren't worrying about the thing they should have been worrying about, which is how negatively it implicates them.
Jeffries came from my subpoena of the Epstein estate. And again, the Democrats were demanding that I would do that months ago because they didn't think I would. No one knew what was going to be in the documents. And when we get the documents, lo and behold, there's a bunch of liability for Democrats. And I'm glad that the hypocrisy is on full display. And I don't think those answers are satisfactory.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to get to Minority Leader Jeffries.
It is
in just
hypocrisy.
a second,
I don't know how
specifically with the Plaskett thing, do you see a mixed message here that Democrats have been...
I think along with Trump derangement system, the Democrats now have Epstein derangement syndrome because they are like, Biden had all this stuff for 4 years, could have done something with it. And now after 1 year with Trump having it, all of a sudden magically, whatever doesn't come out is all Trump's fault, all Trump's fault, all Trump's fault. Like the delusions are insane. We need new psychological studies to say what this phenomenon is, where people, based on what they hear on social media and in their echo chambers, get just obsessed with these certain ideologies and can't even look at things with any kind of critical thinking or reasoning or from another side or from another perspective.
Demanding for accountability, but when it came to holding one of their own accountable, then all of a sudden they had a lack of interest.
Yeah, solid point.
Exactly. And look, there's a major player whose name kept popping up in all this new document bags from the Epstein estate, and that's Bill Clinton. But the Democrats haven't said a peep about hearing from Bill Clinton. Remember, you got...
There's a lot of stuff coming out from Hakeem Jeffries, too, being really supported by Epstein's camp. But, yeah, Bill Clinton definitely.
That, by all accounts, had acquaintances and relationships with Epstein and Maxwell. Now, there's no evidence that shows either one of them has done anything wrong, but the Democrats are obsessed about Donald Trump. He's answered hundreds of questions from reporters about his relationship with Epstein. Bill Clinton's never answered a single question. So we're trying to bring Bill Clinton in now, and the Democrats aren't doing a thing to help us.
Except the most recent one, did Trump do a little, glock, glock.
Justice for the victims. Their number one priority is to try to hope and pray that there's something damaging about Donald Trump in there.
And we'll see if the former President Clinton decides to sit down for a deposition. But quickly, you did mention Hakeem Jeffries, and your investigation has uncovered a number of emails, one of which appears to suggest that Hakeem Jeffries' campaign was inviting Epstein to a fundraiser. Explain.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, that was one of the text messages that we found in the 23,000 pages of document that we released to the public. Hakeem Jeffries' campaign was soliciting donations from Epstein. They called Hakeem Jeffries the Barack of Brooklyn.
And Barack of Brooklyn.
Hakeem Jeffries could have a private meeting.
Ridiculous, man. All these guys are the same,
Epstein,
I swear.
If Epstein wanted, but they really wanted his full financial support. Now, again, can you imagine if there were a Republican that were, soliciting money from Jeffrey Epstein at a time when he'd already been convicted as being a sex offender, there would be massive outrage.
He's already known as a bad guy at this point.
Hakeem Jeffries is like
this isn't before the fact, like all the Trump stuff.
The Democrats are defending him. They will defend the indefensible, but go all in on Donald Trump. And again, everything that was disclosed about Trump, the mainstream media tried to make it a big deal. It was nothing that hadn't already been out there. Nothing.
It reminds me of, like, the other day I saw a video. Some Democrat was talking about how Trump started all the name calling, and like how Trump, is responsible for the division by all the name calling and stuff. And I was like, who's the one doing No Kings protests, calling him a Nazi, calling him fascist, calling everyone who even kind of supports Trump a Nazi and a fascist? Like, it's just, dude, once again, like, where are people's critical thinking skills? Like, how are you not able to look at this from two sides, right? Because obviously, if you've watched any of my stuff, I'm not 100% Trump supporter. There's things I think he's done right. There's things I'm kind of pissed about that he hasn't done better. But, like, I can see that there's obviously one side that's being more vile, violent, and destructive with their rhetoric. Like, it's obvious. Like, there's one side that was burning down Teslas. There's one side that rioted in most of our major cities. There's one side constantly using terms like Nazis and fascists and things like that are historically taught as the type of people we need to suppress at all costs, even kill if necessary. Like, that's the things you're taught growing up against Nazis, fascists. Like, it's not okay to kill anyone except maybe a Nazi, and then what do they call Trump and every person that even has, like, a little bit of towards the right of left-sided viewpoints? They're Nazis, they're fascists, they're bigots, they're all these things that justify doing horrible actions to them. Like, there's only one side doing that. What was Trump's big thing? Calling them deplorables. Like, that's like calling somebody a degenerate or something. Like, that it's, like, it's supposed to be an insult, but it's not always really taken as an insult. And it's not that. It's not a term that, brings out this revenants of 50 years of being taught to hate this type of person. If my friend says, oh yeah, that guy's a deplorable, I'm not going to think like, oh, I need to leave the room. I don't want to be anywhere around it. But you say, hey, that guy's a bigoted Nazi fascist. You're like, man, I don't, I might need to step into another room. And that's how they refer to Trump. But I saw this whole video of somebody talking about how, Trump's responsible for all the violent rhetoric and the escalation of tension and division in the country. It's just, how do you not see it?
Thing that President Trump hasn't already explained dozens of times to the American people and the national public. This is new information. Mm-hmm. And the Democrats, they don't even want to inquire about it. They just want to.
Yeah, it's funny about how we've known about all the Trump stuff for a while, but as we've actually started releasing the full files, now all of a sudden a lot of Democrats got some mud on their face. Almost like a Democrat had the file for the last 4 years, and if there was anything really damning about Trump or any other Republicans or big GOP figures, that they would have released it.
Say nothing's wrong here. This is a completely normal text exchange between a convicted sex offender and a member of Congress trying to embarrass the president of the United States. There's nothing wrong with the community.
So normal.
Epstein for money, but
See, but that's the thing, because Trump is an evil Nazi fascist dictator. They're justifying, even with colluding with a known child rapist, pedophile, sex offender, if it's to take down the crazy Nazi fascist dictator.
The Republicans should pay the price because they're not doing enough to seek justice for Epstein. We're going to continue to investigate this the atrocities of Epstein and Maxwell, and we're going to continue to give the American people full transparency. That's what the Oversight Committee is doing, despite the Democrats' effort to score political points by embarrassing Trump.
I hope they do. I don't think it's going to make any difference, though. I don't think there's anything prosecutable in the Epstein files, or Biden would have done it, and Trump's DOJ would have done it as soon as they took in charge and started going through that. I think it's going to be a lot more of this type of BS. people colluding with Epstein to make political moves, or people raising money from Epstein to grow their campaigns. And I think a lot of it is going to get tied back to the left, and they're going to be sitting there with mud on their face. And then all of a sudden they're not going to want to talk about the Epstein files anymore. Or if they do, they're going to say, oh, well, you know, Trump didn't release any of the bad stuff on his side. He just released the stuff that made Democrats look bad. Release the full files. That's like vision to the future. This video will be on YouTube. You can reference it back. That's what's going to happen. But back to the main thing that we're talking about today, and that is how Republicans colluded with Democrats to not censure this person that was in bed with Epstein, at least figuratively. We don't know about literally. Benny Johnson talked about this a little bit. Let's share his thoughts.
Indefensible.
It really is.
And so while I want to talk about the Clintons and how the Clintons are going to, you know, get DOJ referrals for their arrests, just like Steve Bannon did, I want to begin by saying that the problem and the rot runs so very deep in our nation and in our politics, and both parties are to blame. The problems that we face here in this country, both parties are to blame. And whether you like it or not, there were generations that just kind of like allowed these things to happen, whether it's Roe v. Wade, the murder of JFK, the total inability for young people to afford homes, 150 million new immigrants to this land, totally changing the culture and fabric of America. Many people brought into this country legally. I mean, legal immigration, I think, is actually worse than illegal immigration, quite frankly. Dream. If you are bringing people into this nation that hate this nation and are incompatible with our Constitution and the morals of this country, well, like, isn't...
Real quick side note, whatever happened to like the immigration tests, right? I remember being brought up and them talking about how like, oh, if you want to come to the United States, it's so hard. The average U.S. citizen wouldn't even pass it, you know, and they tested your patriotism and your knowledge of how our government works and how our law works and all of that. And all of it was in English, if I recall. I remember being taught about that in school. What the hell happened to that? How are people just coming in? Like I've gotten Uber rides, and the Uber's pulled across the street from me, and I've been on the other side of the street, and I'm trying to tell the guy, hey, I'm on the other side of the street, and he didn't even understand enough English to understand that I'm on the other side of the street. The pin, you know, dropped on the wrong side of the street. Can you swing around and pick me up? I'm not going to cross a busy 4-lane road. Like, obviously this guy can't read street signs. How did he get a driver's license and insurance to be able to even work for Uber? Because Uber requires you have driver's license, current insurance, all of that stuff. Like, it had his name and picture as my driver, and I'm trying to talk to him on the phone, can't get anything. So like, what happened here? Like, how are we letting in people that have no sense of the laws, no sense of the culture, no sense of the language, no sense of anything? Anyway, I don't want to sidetrack.
Isn't that worse? Like, at least if they're illegal, you can send them home. But if you bring them here legally and they still hate this country, they hate Christendom, they hate freedom, they want Marxism or a caliphate here, like, isn't that actually more pernicious? And that was done by both parties. All of our leaders did that. And then they collude in order to protect themselves. And that's what happened last night. I'm going to let Tim Burchess explain here.
Yep.
Which, this is what's become very clear about these Epstein files, is that Epstein hated Donald Trump and was engaging in a full-scale operation to try and destroy him.
Yep.
By proxy. By proximity to his knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein, just by the fact that Jeffrey Epstein went to his parties. You can see how the entire op worked here. Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile by design. It's become like really clear that Jeffrey Epstein was living out this debaucherous, truly demonic life in order to be so obscene that he could, by association, destroy people.
Yep.
Do you understand? So like, Jeffrey Epstein's become this moniker for pedophile, and just by knowing Jeffrey Epstein, you'll be destroyed. That's happening right now with a guy named Larry Summers, who's the president of Harvard. And so just by like Larry Summers being close with Jeffrey Epstein now, he's had to step down from all these boards. He's had to quit all of his jobs. He's gone into hiding. He's retreating. And that's what the op was intended to do.
And why did the Republicans do it? All to save Corey Mills, because Senator Nancy Mace is calling him out for stolen valor, faking some of the recommendations he used in order to get his medals and stuff, which, by the way, is deplorable. And if found true, from everything I've read, it seems like it did happen, is deplorable, and he should be censured. But he won't be, nor will be Stacey Plaskett. Despite being Republicans and Democrats on supposedly separate sides of the aisles, both of them are willing to protect each other for their moral wrongdoing. Isn't that lovely? Well, that's it for today, guys. Get back to work. Keep praying. I'll see you guys in the next one.